Welcome back officially to Language Travel Adoptee. My name is Emily and I'm going to be talking to you all about the language goals that I have for 2025, and it is super exciting too because I actually get to put the travel back inside my channel name, Language Travel Adoptee. Before I wasn't traveling really at all, and that also didn't give me a lot of ways to actually interact with my languages because I'm definitely someone who prefers to interact with languages by speaking instead of integrating more passive study. So for 2025, let's see where I'm going. Usually I don't have really specific goals concerning reaching specific levels in each language, simply because again, I'm not taking a course. I'm not usually planning to pass a language exam to show my level, but next year is going to be totally different. So therefore, I am splitting this video up into 3 parts. Serious focus languages. It involves either passing a course and/or passing an official language exam. The second category is going to focus more on languages that I am either maintaining or I'm kind of letting lay dormant. And the third and last category would be those languages that I am not serious about, but I'm definitely dabbling in because we're gonna do a lot more dabbling this year. Okay, so for serious studies, we're gonna start first with Levantine Arabic because I have been studying this language for ever since I left Germany, which was back a little bit before 2020, off and on, lots of breaks. Mental health wise, I wasn't always fully prepared to take on Levantine Arabic. It used to be one of the languages that I was most harsh on myself on because it was such a different language from the ones that I had studied before. However, I know that mentally I am just so ready to actually dive into not just the language, but the culture surrounding the language. I feel with a lot of these languages that are going to be a serious focus for me in 2025, they are languages where I've concentrated on the grammar and the logistics so much that I just forget about the whole culture and focusing on history and learning more about that too, integrating that more into my language studies. And I figured since I do have the flexibility to travel again next year, it would be in my best interest to actually go to a Levantine dialect speaking country, integrate myself there fully, and take an intensive language course on the side. So for Arabic, I've already decided to attend the Sijal Institute in Amman, Jordan in later 2025. It's going to be a very intense Arabic program that's going to integrate both classical Arabic as well as the Levantine dialect. And I'm going to be there for about 3 months. So what I'm planning to do, since it is a ways away, is I plan to take lessons 1 time per week. And I figure since I'm starting in the later part of 2025, I don't really need to take that many more lessons outside of the once per week, especially because I have so many other language goals just kind of floating around and occupying my time, which brings me a lot of joy, but trying not to overload myself. I also wanted to integrate more in-country intensive Arabic study in the later part of the year so that I could start learning more classical Arabic. I have not learned any classical Arabic up until this point. However, I did hear that the most authentic way to speak is to actually know whenever to switch and actually mix a little bit of classical Arabic with dialect, depending on the country. So that'll give me some time to review all of that. And I plan to just be using the series Living Language for Arabic, which I literally bought like 5 years ago and I'm just now using it. So very guilty of hoarding my resources, but I'm excited to finally have an excuse to at least bring this series back out. Now, in terms of the actual books for the series, I'm not sure how much I want to dedicate, for example, per week, per month to it. I really want to refresh my Levantine Arabic for the dialect in a relaxed setting in a class for at least a few months, see how much I have retained and remembered because I haven't reviewed it in a while, and then I'll go into seeing how much classical Arabic I really can handle with my schedule, with traveling. It's gonna be a lot. And my end goal for Arabic by December 2025, having reached a B2 high intermediate level. For Turkish, I have found a great in-country intensive course actually at Istanbul University. Now, I am currently at around a B1, give or take in Turkish, probably more at an A2 since I have not reviewed it for a while. Spanish has been my main focus for these past few months. However, I do hope that by the time I actually get to Turkey, I'll be able to participate and test into a B1 course at that university. I did find out that you have to sign up for at least 3 levels in order to actually get a visa for Turkey. I did not originally plan to want to get a C1 in Turkish. However, since I already probably know I'm going to be signing up for the B1 course and not be ready for anything else other than that, then taking a B1 course, B2 course, and then a C1 course would be the natural trajectory, just in terms of what I need to do in order to fulfill my visa requirements. Honestly, I have nothing against that, bringing on the challenge. Therefore, also around the end of 2025, after all 3 levels of my courses are over, and especially since I'll be able to integrate more into the culture in the actual country, I would love to be at a C1 in Turkish. Now, in terms of prep time, I'm not really going to prep that much for Turkish. I feel like I have a mentally and emotionally better relationship with this language at this point. I know that I can take maybe about a month before I actually start my intensive program at the university to just review a little bit, make sure that I can still talk, but I'm not very worried at this point about really preparing myself to test into the highest level possible once I get to Turkey. I'm gonna take a little bit more of a relaxed approach for the months leading up to that Turkish course because I will, as I said before, be focusing more on Arabic, refreshing that first and foremost. Speaking of refreshing and reviewing Arabic, I am also working on reviewing and refreshing Russian. Again, as I've said before, Spanish has been a huge focus of mine these last few months, and so getting back into Russian, which is also a very different language from English, more than Spanish is, I plan to take, at some point, an in-person course that covers 1 full level also at the Istanbul University, where I'll also be taking the Turkish classes. Now, with taking a Russian course at the Turkish University, I don't think it's going to be as intensive as it will be for Turkish, for example. My current level is around B1 right now, so again, I would love to test into a B2 class at the university and really take a lot more advantage of the in-person environment and others who are passionate about the language to really fuel my motivation. But again, I am reviewing a ton because there's a lot of grammar with that language. So along with reviewing some of Levantine Arabic, I will also be pretty intensely reviewing Russian. And also because I heard that there are a lot of Russian-speaking people in Turkey, so I do want to take advantage of that opportunity being in such a multicultural environment there. And I am really hoping to have passed the B2 level course at the Istanbul University in Russian, also by late 2025. Now, speaking of Spanish, because I have not mentioned it up until now, I am actually preparing myself to take the C1 exam at the Instituto de Cervantes in 2025. And this is what I am preparing for myself right now, just once per week with a tutor who really knows how to prepare students for such an exam, walking through the format. Passing such an exam means a lot to me, and it's not as much about proving my level as it is having a really good excuse and big motivator to dive deep into Spanish. As I said before, with some of the harder languages, it's hard for me learning more about the culture that surrounds the language. Well, with Spanish, those languages that are really close to English, I don't feel myself ever really getting above an intermediate level. For me, the intermediate plateau is a lot more common with these languages that are closer to English because it's really easy to just use knowledge about what I already have from English or other similar Romance languages in order to just speak in the language. But I don't get further, I don't really increase my vocabulary and specialized knowledge. So passing the exam is a really good excuse to finally commit myself and just enjoy the absolute beauty and variety that exists in the Spanish language. I just went to Peru as well. I came back, and I also don't really want to let my level die necessarily, because I worked so hard to get it up while I was in Peru. It's also a continuation of my trip because I really didn't want to leave Peru when I had to. Prep work involved, I will just be taking one class per week, again with everything else I need to do for prepping to travel for next year. That is the most that I can manage. And then just in my free time, making sure that I actually do the homework that my Dele teacher gives me, as well as listening to podcasts, reading the news, listening to audiobooks with more advanced topics, really scattered throughout my day, and just having a really, really good flashcard deck is how I'm gonna prepare myself. And once the time draws near to actually taking the exam, probably about a month before, most likely I am just going to increase the number of classes that I'm gonna have with my same tutor. So next category is the languages that I am maintaining / just laying dormant. Now, I have lived in both German-speaking and Italian-speaking countries, so I have really good levels in those languages up until the point of, as in I don't really concentrate on improving them. I know I still have a strong basis in both German and Italian to just come back to those whenever I would like to refresh them. Same thing with French. Even though I have never lived in a French-speaking country, I have taken the language starting in high school, and even though I've taken a lot of breaks, and you guys, if you've been following me for a while, I have talked so much about having to really fight hard to even reach an intermediate level because I had so many emotional and mental blocks. French, I just don't have room for it in this upcoming year. I am just going to leave French to the side for really however long I feel like it, reevaluate for 2026 to see where I am. I will probably run into some potential tandem partners. In fact, I'm hoping that I will, who will want to exchange maybe Turkish or Russian for perhaps Italian or German or French. But I am not betting on that definitely happening. So worst case scenario, I just leave all of those 3 languages to the side and really focus on my serious languages. And finally, the last category for dabbling. I am still going to be dabbling some in Mandarin Chinese. It's not going to be a serious focus, also because, again, it is a heritage language for me, so there's a lot of emotions that I feel like can't dedicate my full time to, especially when I have a lot of intensive courses going on. So it'll probably just be me dabbling, usually through Pimsleur, maybe a little bit through YouTube. I'm probably not going to get a lot into writing and reading since I feel like that requires a lot more active work, and dabbling for me is something that I can do easily with Mandarin through Pimsleur. I imagine that Mandarin will turn into a more serious language past 2025, but who knows? There's a lot that is going on next year. I am not having any solid plans with it, and it's just going to be a dabbling language for now. Now, with the other languages that I was dabbling in a little bit for this year, which are Dutch, Korean, and Portuguese, I am also going to be using the same program for dabbling in these languages, specifically Pimsleur. And you'll hear me a lot mentioning that I use the exact same program for multiple languages. That really helps to lower my overwhelm when there's so many languages that I want to investigate more. And then again, when I was in Peru, even just last week, I had a wonderful trainer and teacher from South Africa, and he had really inspired me to start wanting to learn a language from specifically South Africa. So I'm kind of thinking at this point, either dabbling in Zulu or Tswana, but it would just be something for fun on the side that I'd love to do. All of these languages, especially under the dabbling category, they are not set goals at all. I do want to dabble. I guess that's my main goal for all of them, because I have a very good feeling that this is going to be a very full, action-packed, language-filled year, and I can't wait to take you guys on the journey with me. Make sure to write down in the comments what your language goals are for 2025, and we'll see each other in another video.